Okay, I'm going to be honest. I am still shook after that episode of Ahsoka. Holy shit. It was honestly better than I could have ever imagined. And I mean, after episode 4 and that end tease with Anakin Skywalker, it's like Dave put the entire Star Wars fan base on notice. We all knew something crazy was going to be happening in episode 5. And of course, there were leaks and rumors and things like that out there for people that enjoy that kind of stuff. But even with that, we didn't know how this was all going to come together. There was so much mystery. And the real question was like, would they be able to pull this off? Would they actually be able to pull this off? Hayden, Ahsoka, freaking Dave Filoni directing it, because like I love a lot of stuff that Dave does in direction, but a lot of his live action episodes have flaws and stuff. I feel like he's still learning the craft of live action. So there were a lot of questions. How would this come together? To me, perfectly, immaculately, otherworldly. You know, that religious experience that we heard Dave talking about when he was talking about the Ahsoka show? It's this episode, man. That was truly something special. So in this video, I want to give you my raw reaction to this because I really feel like they nailed it here. And this is so much bigger than just a great episode of television. This is really shining the light forward, showing us the direction that Star Wars should go in. I think Dave Filoni just changed Star Wars forever and solidified the fact that he is saving Star Wars with this show. Oh, and also there's only 1 week left to get my comic book on Kickstarter, but I'll talk more about that at the end of the video. I think the most shocking thing about episode 5 is that it's so damn bold. It goes for it in ways that I was beginning to question whether or not they would actually have the sort of gumption to do that, right? They go for it with Anakin. But what's crazy about it is, even though it's obviously fan service, it's also so much more than that. It felt like the sequence with Anakin and Ahsoka had so much depth to it. It's so much bigger than just her being told a lesson or just some flashbacks. It's like really deep, and I think fits perfectly in line with the mythology of Star Wars overall. Or I guess I should say like the George Lucas mythology, right? That mythology, that mystery, the hero's journey, all of this sort of stuff kind of caked in to this scene between a master and an apprentice, and I think it's absolutely beautiful. And let me stop for a second and admit that I didn't even fully understand Anakin's lesson the first time I watched the episode. I don't know if you guys had a similar experience. It was like so much, and I'm trying to contextualize it. I'm trying to soak it all in. I'm being blown away by the visuals, but it wasn't until later, and when I watched it again and I thought about it, that it began to come together for me. And I'm going to do a whole video on Anakin's lesson. I'm actually doing a live stream tonight over on my streaming channel at 6 p.m. where I'll also talk about Anakin's lesson. It's really in line with a lot of stuff we were talking about before the episode came out. And I think the most obvious interpretation is she needed to fight. Like, if she wanted to survive that crazy experience, she was going to have to fight. Her spirit was going to have to fight and want to live. To me, that's when Star Wars is at its best. I mean, there are still things within Star Wars that are like a bit confusing. They require a lot of thought outside of just experiencing them. That's what makes the story, the characters in these moments resonate with us beyond watching it in a movie theater or just putting it on the TV. You think about it. If you're like me, you make videos about it, right? You talk about it on message boards or Reddit. This is stuff that's interesting. It gets you to think not only about the material, but yourself and the world, morality, ethics, all of these things. That is the magic of Star Wars. That's the juice. But to tell that lesson, to do that story in this show with Anakin, I mean, like, let's just admit it, that's incredibly bold. They went for it. The homie literally turns to her and says, "I'm here to finish your training." He's taking her through memories. It was so damn crazy. And again, bold. I just gotta say, I want to give so much credit to Dave for being as bold as he was with those scenes. And look, when you do something like that, you're not going to please everybody. Like, that's just what it is. There are people that probably don't like the fact that we went that hard with Anakin. There are people that don't like the idea of going back and showing these Clone Wars moments and having this really weird cosmic thing. And maybe they think it's just fan service. Maybe they can't see the depth of it, right? You're always going to risk having fans have that kind of a reaction when you choose to be that bold with your storytelling. A lot of people will tell you just throwing Darth Vader in things is an easy pull, right? To just do Vader in something, that's the easiest trick in the book. And of course, it's going to elevate any material that you have. And I think Rogue One is sort of an example of a more fan servicey Darth Vader thing. I mean, Vader, for all intents and purposes, didn't necessarily need to be in Rogue One. It makes sense for him to be there. And of course, he's super badass and that's awesome. But there's nothing added to the character of Anakin. There's nothing that's accentuated about the arc of Anakin Skywalker in Rogue One. And on the contrary, I think we actually get a lot of commentary about Anakin and the greater cosmic force, the balancing of good and evil. And we really get some cool character closure between a master and an apprentice, and some of that conversation goes unspoken. 100%. It is done in little moments with the look between the characters, the way they interact when they're fighting. It is a conversation that is not entirely verbal. I would love to know what's the direction that Dave gave to these actors. Number one, because this is the best performance by Hayden Christensen of Anakin Skywalker. Like, he is literally crushing these scenes, bringing in notes and subtleties that I've never seen with Hayden, even in the prequels. And I love the prequels, but that depth is not there. And they bring out that nuance and depth due to the direction by Filoni. But more importantly, or maybe not more importantly, but to me, something I'm equally as interested in is like, what was the direction given? Because there could be lore behind it. Like, in certain moments was Filoni saying, like, this is Anakin with the dark side enraged, but understanding he needs balance, realizing he taught the lesson to his Padawan, and calming back down. What was the direction given to make Hayden do some of the things that he did? Because it was fascinating. But the main point I want to get across is that it was bold, it was fan service, but it also had depth. As somebody that's been following Star Wars for a long time, somebody that literally engages with Star Wars to make a living, I can just tell you, this is the most Star Wars shit I've seen in a long time coming out of Disney. Like, this hits all the notes and brings up all the questions. And the thing that Dave is so good at is pushing the story forward while acknowledging and respecting the legacy of the past. The connection between Ahsoka and Anakin is so important, and a lot of people didn't watch Rebels or Clone Wars. They might not inherently get it. This sequence is important for taking people through what that relationship was and making you realize the significance of the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker, the legacy of the Jedi, all of that. It's incredible stuff. And again, it just perfectly respects the legacy of George Lucas, what he was trying to do, while also pushing it forward. Because Ahsoka is literally going to a new galaxy as Ahsoka the White. It doesn't get much more new and pushing the story forward than that. And that's why I really love the back half of the episode. And I frankly just love the way the episode's put together, because it could have just been an Anakin fest and a big episode breaking that down and making us all go nuts. But it isn't. It's a story about Ahsoka. This episode is about Ahsoka. Anakin's involvement is because of Ahsoka, and Ahsoka coming out of that situation, having learned the new stuff that she has learned, becoming Ahsoka the White, the Jason stuff, the Hera stuff, the Purgle stuff at the end, and her actually leaving, finally going into the new galaxy. It's all a meaningful part of the story. And so, the episode is a very succinct episode that Dave wrote, and he knew exactly what he's doing with all the different story beats, and the story that he's trying to tell is not an Anakin story, but Ahsoka's story has to include Anakin. You see what I mean? Legacy respected, story pushed forward. And another thing I want to say in this episode breakdown is it's very obvious after watching this episode that Dave was taking Ahsoka on some kind of an arc here. A lot of people complained that Ahsoka had not been her regular, more plucky, more jokey self. But if you notice at the end of the episode, her attitude is higher. It's elevated. She she is more like the Ahsoka we have come to know through Clone Wars and Rebels, right? So he was just arcing her, right? She starts the season in a darker place, dealing with the guilt of her life as a Jedi and a warrior, destruction, the legacy of Anakin, all these things that are upon her. She's not dealing with them well, and that is manifesting in a bad relationship with Sabine. Now, some of that stuff happens off screen, and I don't love that. Still to this day, I don't love it. But it's obvious that it was done to take Ahsoka from a low place to a high place, and this sequence in episode 5 is a big part of that. And so Ahsoka the White is way more like the Ahsoka we know at the end of the episode, and I think she will be more like that for the duration of the show. The other thing that's absolutely nuts here is we haven't even seen Ezra or Thrawn, and I know some of us are pissed about that, and frankly, I get it, man. I would love to have seen Thrawn by now. I love Thrawn. Where's my Thrawn, Dave? But this is the story Dave wants to tell, and he does want to dangle the Thrawn in front of us a little bit, and I think it's going to be pretty satisfying when we finally get to the big blue guy. And the same with Ezra. It's going to be really exciting to see what's going on with Ezra. I cannot wait for the next episode, and I think that's ultimately the goal of the show, right? Get people talking, get the fan base excited again, and get us to want to watch the next episode. And I can't wait to have all the discussions about Anakin's lessons, the fact that I think that is Anakin as the father, a Mortis god. A lot of fun stuff to break down, and we'll be doing that in videos and on streams. Guys, there's only 1 week left to get my comic book Unity on Kickstarter. We did get funded yesterday after doing an awesome live stream with Rob from Comics Explained, where I talked a lot about the comic itself, got a lot of people excited. We ended up breaking through our goal, and we are funded. But this book is dope, man, and you only have 1 week left to get a copy. Help to support it. You'll be one of the first people ever to read it and be a part of bringing this new awesome superhero IP to life. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.